Good morning and welcome to round 11 of Grand Prix Omaha. I'm Brian David Marshall. I am proud to be joined by Pro Tour Hall of Famer Ben Stark as we watch the last two 10-0 players, the last undefeated players in Grand Prix Omaha fight here in round 11. And Scott Lipp gets things started with a search for tomorrow.
If someone had asked me, will the last undefeated deck in Grand Prix Omaha have Emrakul, Primeval Titan, Through the Breach, and MakeShift in it, I would have bet against.
I thought the answer was going to be, I hope so.
I hope so is a great answer. I mean, as a MakeShift player, I would have expected maybe a lot of those cards.
There you see a Valakut. And Wall of Roots from Josh McClain. Josh McClain's playing the fair deck here.
Yeah, and to be quite honest, you know, these pod decks have pretty much cut all Thoughtseize type effects from the main. So I don't think this could actually be a very good matchup for Josh McClain. After board, he might get a decent amount of disruption, but game one, he basically can't interact with the card MakeShift or the card Through the Breach. Yeah,
if you at any point in the first 4 or 5 turns of the game, you get you get an Emrakul sort of shoved into the red zone here. You lose all your permanents. You get one-sided Jokel hops.
Yeah. I mean, he might have some cute ways to interact with creatures if he can get a pod out, if he can get things going. But if Scott just has a Through the Breach for next turn, with either Primeval Titan or Emrakul coming into play, I think it's going to be a rough game for Josh McClain.
And so nothing from Scott Lipp. He just plays his 4th land. It's his turn 3. He's got an extra land from the Searcher tomorrow. Josh McClain's also up a mana, if he wants, by virtue of Wall of Roots.
I mean, we could see fair versus unfair here, as Josh McClain may make a Siege Rhino.
I think he's just going to play a Siege Rhino. He's like, Siege Rhino just standing there. Can't tussle with a Primeval Titan. Can't tussle
with an
Emrakul.
Would you rather have a Siege Rhino or an Emrakul? He's got the pod. Okay. That's good, because that's going to allow him maybe to get Sin Collector or something that could maybe disrupt Scott Lipp a little bit. I'm pretty sure he'll go get Sin Collector here, since it's a turn before Scott can Through the Breach.
Right. And I think we have
Josh, an expert pod player, well aware of what's going on here.
There is the Sin Collector. It sees Summoning Trap. It sees Through the Breach. It sees Courser of Krufix. And is that a Primeval Titan, some sort of promo version?
Yeah, it's a Primeval Titan. So this is exactly what Josh had to do, because the only way he can interact with Scott's hand in game 1 in his entire deck is this one copy of Sin Collector.
Yeah, he's like, I'm taking Through the Breach.
Oh yeah, he had to do that. But, if as long as Scott finds a forest, we notice he doesn't have second forest.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, then he's going to have Courser, he's got Titan, he's got Summoning Trap, and I mean, the only way Josh can look at his hand again, I think, is if that Sin Collector dies, which is not too hard for Josh to accomplish considering he has a Birthing Pod out. But then he has to Eternal Witness it back, or he could Restoration Angel and blink the Sin Collector.
Sure.
And none of that will really stop a Primeval Titan, because that's not what Sin Collector does.
So now we're going to see a Courser of Krufix. Revealing another Courser.
You're really seeing the power of Stomping Ground right now, because Valakut is threatening to come online hard and fast with 4 mountains already in play.
Right.
And yet Scott is casting double green spells.
Yeah.
This is what first drew me to MakeShift. After Zendikar came out and we saw Valakut, I was like, if you have to just play 2 basic forests and a bunch of basic mountains, cast MakeShift, this doesn't seem that awesome, that unfair. But when you have Stomping Ground,
right,
it's really quite incredible.
Yeah, I mean, the fixing and the fact that it is a mountain.
Yeah, Stomping Ground and Steam Vents being mountains just really allows you to do some very powerful things. Playing a blue-green combo deck and not a red-green combo deck. Or in this case, playing a red-green combo deck, but with Through the Breach for Primeval Titan and Emrakul, and also MakeShift. So Josh, obviously, not in a great spot, considering his options.
And we could just see a Summoning Trap, in a turn here, too.
Oh, yeah. He'll see a lot of cards to find one of those 4 Emrakuls. If he only finds a Primeval Titan, I don't know if the word only accurately describes that. as Josh's creatures will mostly all get blown up by the Valakutes. This is not a good spot for Josh McClain. He has some options. He's got his birthing pod, so he's going to be able to dig a little bit.
Right, but he also ate his fourth land source, which was mana source, which was the Walroots.
Yeah, he's
so
not.
I don't know if he has another land here.
No, he's not in a comfortable position right now. He could pot away the Voice and get Reclamation Sage and just kill the Courser. It's not horrible, but it's not going to stop the big game that Scott's planning for next turn.
Right. Oh, and by the way, Josh is at 11 from activating his birthing pod. There's not a lot of value. I mean, he might just be able to kill him with a Primeval Titan.
Yeah. I think he's got two options here: either Eternal Witness back the Verdant Catacombs and play it, or Reclamation Sage the Courser. I don't know.
If he doesn't have another land, he has to go for the Witness, I think.
You think to get back the land? I mean, it depends on his hand. I don't think either option is fantastic for him. Neither option stops Primeval Titan or Summoning Trap from being cast next turn. So it's not an excellent spot.
Apparently, Scott Lipp said the most difficult thing about playing this deck is deciding when you want the Emrakul or the Primeval Titan, because they do actually very comparable amounts of damage.
Wow.
And sometimes the Primeval Titan is doing more.
That's incredible. I would not have predicted that. And interesting enough, Scott can really just do it the old-fashioned way if he wants here. If he just plays the land in his hand and the Primeval Titan, he can go and get a Valakut and a Mountain, have 6 points of damage, take out Sin Collector and Eternal Witness, pretty much reducing Josh's board to a token, which doesn't go up the chain well. He could also Summoning Trap and try and hit Emrakul or go big. I'm not sure which I would do. You're not really too scared if you take out both 3 casting cost creatures, because that doesn't leave Pod with any great options. Podding away a token only allows you to get a 1-drop. So I think either way, Scott's pretty comfortable here.
I think we've come.
Gives you 2 Titans, but you still have 1. If you Titan, that one goes away.
Right. Yeah, he can.
Oh, sure. Summoning Trap allows you to put the Titan in play from the top of your deck and keep the Titan that's in your hand still in your hand. I don't think it's particularly necessary, but it's certainly the right play.
Right. I mean, it definitely gives you the most Titans,
which can't be a bad thing.
So there's the other Valakut. There's a Stomping Ground. Now that's 6 damage. He gets to fire off 2 bolts, kills the Witness, kills the Sin Collector. Wow. You're starting to think about this deck for your gauntlet for the Pro Tour.
You can see it in my eyes. At home, they can't see my eyes. BDM looks over and sees my eyes shining right now. I'm just like, wow, you can do all of this with Through the Breach and Primeval Titan. This is awesome.
This is also a deck that doesn't really have cards. When people are talking about the problem cards of Modern or whatever language they want to use, are there any cards that are in Scott Lipp's deck that anyone's been like, we can't have this here. No one's crossing their fingers and hoping it shows up on a BNR list.
Yeah, I really doubt that if there's changes to the ban list next week, I really doubt any of these cards are going to be banned. People talk about Treasure Cruise and Ascendancy, Jeskai Ascendancy, and Dig Through Time. Nobody talks about Primeval Titan or Emrakul needing to go, that they're just too powerful. But they're like some of the most powerful things you can do right now.
Yeah. You look at Rusty. Rusty's staring. He's like, ooh, I like this deck too. Rusty cocks his ear when he hears his name.
How can you not like this deck?
Yeah, I can see Rashad. Rashad known for playing some unfair decks.
Yeah.
On his opportunities on the Pro Tour. And this is the kind of deck that seems right up his alley too.
Honestly, this is why I like Scapeshift right now. Decks like this are generally kind of weak to Thoughtseize and Liliana, but they're really good against removal and things like that. And you don't see a lot of Thoughtseizes and Liliana in lists right now. There were times, a while ago when pod decks played, Inquisitions and Thoughtseizes main. But, those cards are so weak against the Delver Treasure Cruise decks that they've pretty much all been relegated to the sideboard now.
Right. So let's talk about sideboard. What does Josh McLean have? Does he have that package of cards to bring in?
Yeah, Josh has 4 Thoughtseize. He's got a Sin Collector. I'm confident all 5 of those will come in.
The Entomber Exarch.
The Entomber Exarch, another discard, so that'll be 6. He's got Path. I don't think that's where you really want to be at. Pathing Primeval Titans, I mean, it's better than not pathing them, but it's not exactly.
But you might also just take 6 from
yeah.
it.
Yeah, it's not exactly the game plan you want to have. He has an Avid Mind Sensor. That'll certainly come in. It stops the Primeval Search and the Escape Shift somewhat. So he's got about 7 cards to bring in here. The Thoughtseize, the Sin Collector, the Entomber Exarch, and the Avid Mind Sensor. I don't know if he'll make any other minor tweaks. Those 7 will certainly come in. He'll probably take out some of his more like value pot-ish cards. Clearly, he needs to disrupt that combo. He's not going to grind out Scott Lipp.
Right.
So, I mean, you know, stuff like Siege Rhino isn't great. Voice of Resurgence isn't great. Orzhov Pontiff will definitely come out. Murderous Redcap will probably come out. Kitchen Finks isn't great. I mean, the thing is, Pod being a toolbox deck, he's not necessarily going to take out all the copies of these. He's most likely going to shave.
Right.
Because there are matchups where Voice and Siege Rhino are just great to cast, and this isn't one of them.
Right.
So he's not going to take out all the copies of them because he wants to go up the chain.
Right. I was going to
like
say you need to leave the casting cost sequence in order.
Exactly. So if I were Josh, I would think I would board out something like, you know, one of the 2 Siege Rhinos, maybe 1 or 2 of the Kitchen Finks. He's got 2 Abrupt Decays. I'm not sure that those are very good. They just kill Courser.
But now, what about Scott Lipp? Does he have anything to do out of his sideboard that could be relevant here?
He's got some artifact kill, some enchantment kill, but I don't think he's that worried about killing Pod. He's got an Anger of the Gods that'll certainly come in. I mean, he's got 2 main, or 3 main, but he's got the 4th one on the board. That'll certainly come in. You know, you can wipe Pod's board. It's mana producers. You know, you really kind of strand Pod if you take away all those cheaper creatures so that they can't start ticking it up. So I'm pretty sure he'll board that in, but that's just one card. He's got Slaughter Games, but that doesn't seem very good in this matchup. Sowing Salt. I don't think he's going to board in a whole lot, to be honest. I think he might do something like take out the 2 Obstinate Ballast and board in 1 Anger, 1 Engineered Explosives. Something of that nature.
So we're looking in right now on Eugene Wang, the Grand Prix champion from Orlando, versus Craig Wesco, who's up a game. Craig Wesco, of course, a Pro Tour champion.
Yeah. And obviously we probably know a lot more about Craig than we do Eugene, but I'll tell you, if you could win a limited Grand Prix in Florida, you know what you're doing, because we know how to draft down there.
Yeah, I mean, like, Pat Cox, pretty famous Florida drafter.
Yeah, Pat Cox, just a pillar of Florida magic. Really, just a great representative of the state and of the magic community down there.
Pat, of course, can't hear us because he's on a plane going home right now.
Yeah. He played my Escape Shift list in this tournament to a quick 0-3. Sorry, Pat.
You know, now you know that what you really needed was more Emeralds in that deck.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm not saying the deck was perfect, but I think it was well positioned. We saw he had some weak draws against Owen. I just don't think overall he drew very well with the deck. It really was playing very well for me on Magic Online for the past few weeks.
So let's take a look. What's the matchup here between Wesco and Wang?
Well, Wang is playing Jeskai Ascendancy, but after sideboard, he has Young Pyromancer and Delver. We saw him.
Oh, that's right. We saw him yesterday.
We saw him yesterday against Matthias Hunt's very cool Amulet deck. Craig Wesco, I'm guessing, is playing some sort of Zoo or White Weenie, and that's without looking at the board. After looking at the board, we know it's not White Weenie because he's got Stomping Ground out, but some sort of aggro Naya or Zoo deck.
Right. He could be the guy playing the Wild Nicodles here.
Yeah. I mean, Craig does have a range. You know, we've seen him play White-Black Tokens. We've seen him play Wild Nicodle.
It was shocking to me yesterday, like, somewhere around like the 300 tables, I saw 2 people each playing Wild Nicodle, and I was like, oh yeah, that's legal in Modern again. Like, I had forgotten.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? You haven't seen that card has not come back since. So we're ready to go back to our regular match. We'll talk about the endangered species Wild Nicodle later, I'm sure.
I'm with you. That's a great card. Effectively a 1-mana 3/3. I would expect to see more of that in Modern in years to come.
All right, so Birds of Paradise was the opener for Josh McClain. He's cracking a Windswept Heath. And what do you think? A Sin Collector here?
If he has one, but you're not that incentivized to run your Sin Collector this early. You really want to run it on around turn 4.
You want to give him time to draw into the cards that you really want to take.
Right, because, I mean, there is advantage to taking Anger if your hand is very vulnerable to Anger, but really you want to take through the Breach or Scape Shift, because those are the cards that are going to beat you.
And he trots out Birthing Pod. So he's like, I'm going to go to work.
Makes sense.
Scott Lipp opened on a Valakut.
And it gives him the ability to be flexible and to play around stuff like Anger a little bit, because he could, get rid of that bird, turn it into a Wall of Roots, which doesn't die to Anger, assuming he has to add a creature to the board next turn that maybe does.
Right.
It gives you, Birthing Pod gives you a lot of flexibility. It lets you kind of sculpt the game you want.
Right. Very, very interesting to me. I'm just thinking about, when you think about pass through the Breach decks, they've all been like ritual, right? They've played some sort of red spell that jumps your mana so you can cast through the Breach. And this is really just ramp through the Breach.
Yeah.
It's just like playing the card sort of fair as Richard Garfield intended.
Yeah, I mean, if you ramp once or twice, you can play it turn 3 or 4, and that's fast enough.
Yeah.
Search for Tomorrow and Farseek, they're not Seething Song, but, it's not slow. I mean, Modern right now is kind of grindy with Pod and Delver. It's not super fast. There's not a lot of broken unfair decks storming off on turn 2 or 3.
Meanwhile, Voice of Resurgence has been sacrificed and is cashed in for an Eternal Witness, which will probably be getting fetch land back.
Right. I imagine if Josh had more land, he would be getting.
It looks like he may
have
mulliganed. He doesn't have a lot of cards in hand right now. He only has 3 cards in hand, and he's going to get the voice back.
So
he's just looking for as much value as possible here.
Yeah. So it doesn't look like he has more land. So it's an interesting play getting the voice back. This is turn 3. I guess.
Yeah, he missed his drop.
He missed his land drop, but I guess he's content. Next turn he can play the voice, pot it away, and get that Sin Collector.
Right.
He's going to run pretty hard into Anger here, if Scott has it. Not really loving this line by Josh. I know he doesn't necessarily know Scott's list, and obviously Scott doesn't have Anger because he wouldn't be combusting the token.
Right.
But if Scott had, we know that Scott has up to 4 Angers. I don't know if Josh knows that or not. But if Scott had played land Anger here, it would have wiped Josh's whole team. Well, that's interesting.
I think he drew Anger.
He must have drawn it.
Yeah, I think he drew Anger this turn. So, and he just nukes Josh McClain back to the Stone Age. But Voice of Resurgence will let him start climbing up, but he's still constrained on mana here.
Yeah, and you pretty much always need to knock away Pod's creatures once they have a Pod out, because if you let them start ticking up the chain, usually pretty bad things happen for you. Seems like that's what Scott's considering right now, because I think he has a Combust and a Courser, and he's thinking, well, if I Combust that Voice, he's only got a token, he can only go get a 1. So if I play the Courser, I let him get a 3, which can then get a Sin Collector, taking away my 3 the Breach.
Right, which he is holding.
Right, so this play basically keeps McLean from going to find Sin Collector, which, assuming Scott has a Primeval Titan or Emrakul to through the Breach next turn, Scott's going to turn on his combos, get big, basically. Go big or go home.
So now I think we're going to see Josh McClain tutor for a bird here.
Yeah.
Or a Hierarch or whatever, yeah.
And we're going to see Scott do a little bit better tutoring than that. Haven't got a perfect look at Scott's hand. Pretty sure I saw through the Breach.
You definitely saw through the Breach.
Right, and that's the only way that play really makes sense of combusting the voice there. I don't know whether he has Emrakul or Primeval Titan, or if he's hoping to draw one. Wow, Emrakul will just wipe Josh's entire board.
Yeah.
Actually, it would just kill Josh.
Yeah.
Because he's taken enough damage off his own Birthing Pod that he's below 15.
Yeah.
So an Emrakul would just be game. Primeval Titan would be a pretty big game.
All right, here we go. That's land 5. What is coming through the Breach? It's Primeval Titan.
So you can get 2 mountains at 6 damage, and then 2 more. So yeah, this is game 2. He can deal, well, no, he has to get a Valakut and a mountain now. And then when he attacks with the Titan, he can get 2 mountains, and that'll deal 12. Yeah, this is lethal. Oh, well, not quite lethal. Josh has a path, so. not quite lethal. So Josh did go with the ability to path
Right.
Titans.
So now he's going to be able to do 6 here, though, with his 5th mountain.
Yeah. He's got one basic
Oh, no, he
forest
needs
out.
one more, you're right,
Yeah, he's
yeah.
got one basic forest out that kind of, halted those plans a bit. But nonetheless,
Wow.
every mountain Scott plays for the rest of this game does 6 damage when it comes into play. 2 lightning bolts. This is why I don't actually like the Path to Titan plan, because even though it was certainly good that Josh had that here, as the game would have been over, how is he going to beat every single mountain being 2 lightning bolts?
Maybe they draw a spell.
If he doesn't draw a mountain, that means he's drawing spells. Spells are going to do a lot too, as he, has a few somewhat powerful spells in his deck. Some would call Emrakul, Primeval Titan, Summoning Trap powerful. Some would not.
You can also just draw Escape Shift.
Well, yeah, Escape Shift would just be game. It would deal, 40 damage or so.
Okay. 3 mana.
Just a Courser.
Sakura Tribelder. That's the best Sakura Tribelder who's ever going to be.
He's got to have something.
Nope, no, he's going to Farseek it away.
Yeah, go get a Stomping Ground.
He still has a land drop for the turn. So, like, if he hits a mountain here, that's 6. You're at 5. If he reveals a mountain on top of his deck, he hasn't played a land for the turn.
That
He
would be
just
game.
kills Josh here.
Yeah. Kind of interesting. In such a good position, I'm not actually sure if I would do the 6 to Josh. I know that a mountain ends the game, but he could have killed the Wall of Roots.
Right.
I'm not saying which play is right or wrong here. I mean, there's certainly a lot of value in dealing 6, and now any mountain is lethal. But there's also a lot of value in keeping Josh off his mana when you have this big of an advantage.
Plays a forest. Scott is empty-handed, but there's a summoning trap in his future.
Yeah, so what can Josh do?
Can he gain infinity life?
I don't think so. I mean, it's a 3-drop Spike Feeder and a 5-drop Archangel
Yeah,
Fiend
it
that has to
doesn't
come
have
into
the
play.
time.
Doesn't look like he can do all that.
Can he blow up a land?
He does not have Fulminator Mage or anything like that to take out Valakut. I don't think there's that much Josh can do that's super effective here.
Do you feel like this game's different if Josh goes for the fetch land back on turn 3?
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming he didn't really have anything to go up the chain. That's why he got the voice. It's kind of a bad spot there if you don't have land and you don't have stuff to go up the chain and you have to choose. Don't think that there's a ton of great options for Josh.
But he has a Siege Rhino, so he can play Siege Rhino and get himself out of range of 1 land.
So yeah, the problem is, I think if he plays the Siege Rhino, he goes to 8, that's great. But if he wants to sack the Siege Rhino to get Archangel, or use the pot at all.
He's holding Archangel.
Oh, okay, well then that's obviously not an option. But because if he plays the Siege Rhino and goes to 8, and he wants to use the pot at all, he's got to pay the 2 life right back down to 6. Because he has exactly 5 mana.
Right.
If he had 1 more life right now, that would be pretty convenient, because it would get him out of a single mountain killing him range. Frankly, though, I mean, when Scott's summoning traps, I mean, I think this is going to get ugly. I mean, Josh might have some options. He does have even Mind Sensor in, presumably, after sideboard. Maybe he can court up Entomber Exarch during Scott's draw step or something after he draws Summoning Trap.
But that doesn't really summoning
No,
trap.
he'll just Summoning Trap in response. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what he can do. Trying to think what, like, you see Josh way in the tank here, and Josh is an expert pod player, so I think he's going through, is there anything I could possibly do about this? Just like we are here, just kind of.
So summoning trap,
thinking
just
out
for
loud.
those of you who may not have played the card before, you look at the top 7 cards of your library, you may put a creature card from among them onto the battlefield, put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. It's an instant, it costs 6, and it's also a trap.
Yeah.
So, which means if a creature spell you cast was countered this turn, you can play it for 0.
So Josh is potting.
Okay, so he goes up to 8, and then
Down to 6.
yeah.
I think,
Oh, and he Shriek Maws.
He's just hoping that Scott misses on that summoning trap, I guess.
Yeah.
I can't really blame him. I don't think he had any other options.
He's like, you're empty-handed. You're drawing summoning trap. I'm hoping you just hit no creatures.
He's dead if he hits Titan. So I guess he's hoping for Emrakul. I don't know what he's hoping for. He's hoping he whiffs.
Yeah, he's hoping he just sees like, yeah, I hope you would just whip past all mountains. Well, there's a Sakura Tribe-Elder.
Oh, Sakura Tribe-Elder.
Summoning trap for Sakura Tribe-Elder for the win.
Just like he drew it.
Yeah.
Scott Lipp, you're lone undefeated here after round 11, Grand Prix Omaha.
That deck is super sweet.
I just keep reading his deck list and smiling. I can't help it.
Now, the main deck Chalice, so the Void's in the deck, he doesn't really have a way to cheat them, right? Like he's just...
No, he's just trying to cast them. But I mean, with the ramp, Farseek, and Search for Tomorrow, it's not that hard to have 4 mana turn 3. So he can play it for 2 on turn 3, or he can play it for 1 on turn 2.
Right.
And he's got virtually no 2s or 1s. His only 2 is 2 copies of Farseek and 4 Sakura Tribe-Elder. And those generally come out before it. You know, you play that, you ramp, and then you play it on turn 3 for 2. Or he's got no 1s of any kind if he wants to play it for 1 on turn 2. So it's a pretty good card in his deck.
Yeah, and particularly good against the blue-red Delver decks right now.
Half their deck costs 1 mana, maybe 2/3.
The other half costs 2.
Right.
Actually, half the deck costs 1, the other half is land.
Yeah. 2/3 of their deck or so maybe of their spells maybe cost 1 mana. And then the other cards, there's a few things that cost 2, and then Treasure Cruise, which doesn't really do much if all the cards you're going to play after the cruise just get countered by Chalice.
Right. So, Scott, this is an exciting deck, and it seems, I think the reputation I think that Through the Breach decks have in general is that they're kind of like a roll the dice kind of deck. You're like, okay, you're going to have a Seething Song, not that Seething Song's still legal, but you're going to have a Seething Song, you're going to have a Through the Breach, and you're going to have an Emrakul, right? Like, and it's almost very specifically an Emrakul or something else, right? Like, we haven't really seen it with a Primeval Titan. No, I guess there were Through the Breach Primeval Titan decks before, but and it always felt very volatile.
Yeah, I think the real problem was that a single Thoughtseize breaks up the combo really well because you need to have both the creature and the Through the Breach.
Right.
But now that Delver is really suppressing the Thoughtseize, we're seeing a lot less Thoughtseizes in Modern than we've ever seen. Open the door for Through the Breach, maybe to make a deep run here at Grand Prix Omaha.
It's already done that. Okay, we have a turbo match for you right now, so let's go down and look at that. That way. We're going to look at Pascal Menard versus Matt Sperling. This is, of course, King of the Hill. Who's the reigning King of the Hill here?
It's not King of the Hill.
Oh, it's not King of the Hill?
King of the Hill, Scott Lipp.
Oh, okay. Scott Lipp is our King of the Hill.
Well, he hasn't lost.
Yeah. So Pascal Menard playing Blue-Red Delver, and he leads off, and well, both of these guys are playing Blue-Red Delver. So Turbo Edition may be a misnomer here. Although to be fair, Pascal Menard's playing a slightly different deck.
Okay, what's he got?
He's got Goblin Guides in his deck. He's playing almost like red-blue Delver is what we were calling it yesterday.
Okay, so he's playing more of an aggressive...
It looks very similar. He somehow has fewer mountains than the blue-red decks, but he's got more red 1-drops.
Well, that doesn't really add up.
So you see a Lightning Bolt after Monastery Swift Spear, get in for 3 from Menard.
Tell you what, though, when you're on the play and you've got these aggressive creatures and the Lightning Bolts, it's pretty tough for the other Delver deck. We saw a game yesterday where one of the Delver players had turn 1 Swift Spear, turn 2 Swift Spear, and very quickly ran over, I think it was Paul Rietzel's opponent, very quickly ran Paul over in that game. It does look very similar, though, this list. He's got a lot of removal. He's got 2 Pillar of Flame, 2 Fork Bolt main, along with those 4 Lightning Bolts.
So we see Young Pyromancer, Gataxian Probe. And we're looking at Treasure Cruise, Gataxian Probe, and Land, I believe, from Menard.
Menard probably thinking, I'd really like to flip this Delver, maybe with a Fork Bolt.
Oh, yeah. All right,
right.
he'll take the Pillar of Flame.
I'll settle for a Pillar of Flame. That's fair. Probably no need to be greedy here and probe for 0 mana. Certainly the decision he's considering. I'd probably just pay the 1 for it, but it's close.
Right, doing it for 0 lets you maybe draw another 1-drop spell,
Right.
but he decides to pay blue.
Well, your life is a resource in this matchup.
Yeah.
And he's in no rush. You know, he's clearly on the offensive and is going to continue to be so. Pay the 1 for that, pay the 1 for the Pillar on the Pyromancer, you know, make a nice attack. You know, next turn is looking like a cruise.
Yeah, he's looking at Fork Bolt and Lightning Bolt from Sperling.
Yeah,
Sperling
so-
bolts and bolts.
His creatures are going to die, but he's got the cruise to restock.
Yeah, and there's a Delver from Sperling, and so that's 6 cards in the yard right now. So Serum Visions is 7.
1 mana, draw 3. That's been pretty good so far from what we've seen.
Historically, okay. Decides to Swift Spear rather than leave mana open to maybe kill the Delver.
Well, it makes sense. He's pretty far ahead in the damage race,
Yeah.
I believe. Oh, that's Sperling's got the cruise also.
Yeah, the 2 mana cruise, though, it's much worse.
Yeah.
So Swift Spear into Serum Visions, and
That must have been lethal.
yeah.
It's weird. I didn't see Pascal take all that much damage. He must have been shocking himself with those steam vents on the
Right.
early turns.
See these players sideboarding. That's. Oh, did he just jammed all 15 cards into his deck and then it's taking 15 cards out?
Yeah, sometimes I don't do it because I'm a little lazy, but that's actually the best way to sideboard, I think.
Yeah,
You give away nothing.
right. Except a little bit of time sometimes.
Yeah, a little bit of time. I mean, it can be tricky if you have all these one-ups and you don't necessarily know exactly what you want your deck to be. But the thing is, it doesn't really matter what your main deck configuration was post-board. You're just looking for the best 60 of your 75.
Right.
So, that, you know, if you know what you're doing and you can do it relatively quickly, you shuffle in the 15 and you pull out the 15 you don't want and you set your deck correctly.
Right.
And you give away nothing. Your opponent
Right.
has no idea whether you sideboarded in 1 card, 0 cards, or 15 cards.
Right.
So, I mean, it is, in a perfect world, probably the correct way to do it.
And anything else that you do, like literally anything else, is leaking information.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you're trying to give misinformation out. But you're giving out some
Yeah.
kind of variation from the baseline that your opponent can make some conclusions from.
Yeah, I mean, if you only put 6 cards in and then pull out 6 cards, you can't have sideboarded more than 6 cards. It's impossible.
Okay, Serum Visions leads off for Sperling. Oh, I guess that was actually Menard.
Menard won that game?
Yeah, I guess Menard won that game.
I mean, I know it's on turbo, but Sperling could have left back a chump blocker, so it seems awkward for him to have conceded. I thought Menard was way up in the
Maybe
life
Menard said I
total.
have 2 bolts, or showed him.
Oh, yeah, he might have just showed him a bird in his hand.
Yeah,
or
yeah,
something,
yeah.
I thought it was weird because I thought Maynard was way up in the life race.
Yeah, me too.
But there's no way that Sperling could have conceded on Sperling's turn, not facing anything. But yeah, what you said is probably what happened. Maynard probably flashed him 2 bolts or something of that nature.
And you see Menard being a little more prudent with his mana here. His Steam Vents came into play untapped. Came into play tapped.
Your life is a resource in this matchup. Players get burnt out from pretty high life totals because you're drawing cards with Serum Visions, with Thought Scour, with Treasure Cruise. So, you're like, oh, I'm at 9, okay, 3 bolts, you're dead.
Right.
And it's so tough to kill Swift Spears right when you want to and to block them. I mean, they eventually die, but a lot of times they deal, a couple of points of damage before they die.
Yeah, you never have that sort of sense of like, okay, he's got 1 card in his hand. I'm okay. Like,
Right.
What's the worst that could happen? Well, that 1 card could be Treasure Cruise, and you can draw 3 cards, and 2 of them could be burn spells.
Oh, you're never safe.
Yeah. So Monastery Swift Spear and Goblin Guide coming in. Reveals a Swift Spear on top. Sets the Goblin Guide on fire. Oh, wow.
Nice turn.
Yeah, that's a nice turn. Young Pyromancer, Monastery Swiftspear, bolt your last creature, get a token. Oh, Fork Bolt. Oh, Pillar of Flame.
And that's what you need to have. When you're on the draw in this matchup, you got to have the removal.
So, Swiftspear comes down for Sperling, who's got one card in hand. What's the worst that can happen?
Well, it's not a Treasure Cruise, because Sperling would have
Yeah,
Treasure Cruise last
absolutely.
turn.
So, bolt the Swiftspear, Goblin Guide you. Why is Sperling breaking his fetch land before the Goblin Guide
Because
activation?
he doesn't want to draw land first turn. So, and he doesn't need excess lands. It's not like he's playing Scapeshift or something, and he's like...
There's your Treasure Cruise, by the way.
Yeah, he doesn't want maximum shot at getting a land. What he wants is maximum shot at drawing a spell. So by breaking first, then the top card gets revealed. If it's a land, it goes to his hand. If it's a spell, it stays on top, and he gets to draw a spell.
Okay. So Threads of Disloyalty takes the Goblin Guide. 2 Delver Secrets come down. They both get Fork Bolted.
I think we'll see maybe a Vapor Snag on that Goblin Guide here.
He's like,
After he gets his free land.
He gets his free land.
Yeah.
It's like, that's why I play Goblin Guide. So my opponent will steal it and give me lands.
Ironically, Pascal only on 2 lands. He could really use that extra land.
Yeah.
Whereas any lands he gave Matt was better for Matt than him drawing a land because
Right.
he doesn't need more, but not nearly as useful.
7 lands in play for Sperling. There's the Treasure Cruise for Menard.
We're moving quicker, but I think Sperling just cruised too, so he may have some ammo. I don't know.
Now, he's down to 1 card. He had cruised before the turn with the Threads and 2 Delvers.
Okay. So Pascal's still way up on cards.
Oh, yeah. He hasn't even been able to deploy all his cards. Yeah, he cast Cruise, Goblin Guide, and Delver this turn and still has more than 3 cards in hand.
Well, he's already cast a Cruise, and he's only got 3 lands in play.
Yeah. So there's a Delver for Sperling.
Sperling just completely out-resourced here. He just has 7 lands in play, and that's not going to work.
Reveals a Lightning Bolt on top off the Goblin Guide. Young Pyromancer. Gitaxian Probe you. I didn't see what the card was.
Pretty sure it was a land.
Yeah.
Virtually anything else would have been cast. Could be like a Negate or Spell Pierce, but probably just a land.
He's
Roll
like,
your
fuck,
Lightning
scour you. You've got a Lightning Bolt on top.
Yeah, that's good. That's the right play.
Aha, I still have a Lightning Bolt on top.
Oh, though it didn't work out, that's the right play.
Yeah.
A Lightning Bolt would be a decent draw for Matt here. And I mean, you know, you give him the shot to just draw a land or a creature or something worse. Although you do give him the shot to draw a Cruise, which might honestly be his only out. He's so far behind, I'm not actually sure that Lightning Bolt even helped Matt. That he really needs to find Cruise. So I actually might not have thought scoured him in that spot.
So Menard looks at the top card. Delver Secrets, says, I don't want to draw that. I'll crack a fetch land. Maybe I'll draw something better. Yeah.
Vapor Snag seals it.
Yeah.